Today's edition of WeatherScope.
Good morning, everyone. Flooding is a concern in Missouri and the Ohio River Valley again. I'm Marshall Cease.
And I'm Jodi Saeland. We have a severe weather printer over here, and that thing has been going off. Every time we get a severe thunderstorm warning or a flood warning, that thing is busy, and it's been busy this morning. Non-stop, today and yesterday. That's right. We take you into Kansas City, where yesterday, in the KC area, they saw about 1.5 inches of rain. As a result, you can see motorists are facing some flooded streets in some cases. Showers and thunderstorms again in the picture today around Kansas City, and we have been dealing with rain, and more rain along a stationary frontal boundary. We show you that we've got a lot of moisture available in the atmosphere by looking at the dew points, and those dew points are extremely high. As you can see here, dew points in the 60s throughout Kansas City, St. Louis on over towards Cincinnati. And anytime you see a lot of moisture available in the atmosphere, the higher the number, the more moisture available in the atmosphere, and we certainly are seeing that right here through this corridor of the country where the stationary frontal boundary is located. Severe weather just to the north of the frontal boundary. We're going to see severe weather. Marshall was just telling me that, this morning we had strong storms that rumbled on through southeastern Nebraska around Nemaha and Otoe counties, and they're firing up again throughout this area. And unfortunately, that means more rain over the same areas that have already seen too much rain. So we get what we call a training effect, where storms run over the same track over and over again, and we're seeing it right along this frontal boundary. Flash flood warnings coming out from around the Louisville area on over toward Knox and right around Vincennes and down on through New Harmony. We've had reports of 2 to 4 inches of rain just this morning coming in back through Springfield, Illinois, and extending on over to Kirksville. Just a mess. The thunderstorm watch is in effect until noon local time throughout portions of Missouri along this frontal boundary. We have flash flood watches in the areas in dark green, and by the end of the day we could be talking about locally 5 inches of rain coming in. Now in the satellite picture, as we put it into motion for you, you can see the thunderstorms blowing up over Nebraska and Missouri, and right along that frontal boundary is where we're seeing a lot of the nasty action here, extending on over through Illinois, in through Indiana. It's just hot and dry across the southeast. You can see how the radar picture goes into motion for you, showing you the strongest storms now right around St. Joe over toward, let's see, it looks like around Quincy, Illinois. Yeah, there you go, down around just north of Evansville now, again in through Scott County, Indiana. This is where most of the action is, right along this boundary, and that is where we are seeing flooding problems. But there are parts of the country that have not had enough rain. Right, Marshall?
Well, that's right, Jody. We could use some in the southwest, to be sure. Today's going to be another hot, dry day in the desert southwest. Not good conditions for firefighters battling a huge wildfire in northern New Mexico. The fire has burned thousands of acres and destroyed 27 buildings, including 8 homes in the community of La Lama. Firefighters are using helicopters to dump water on the blaze and airplanes to dump fire retardant slurry. The blaze is moving very slowly. Officials still are uncertain when they'll be able to contain it or bring it under control. And it seems like, well, it doesn't seem like.
Yeah, turn it over to the current weather map, and then we go into the afternoon. And again, that stationary frontal boundary right in the vicinity of east central Illinois, where we've seen upwards of 4 inches of rain around Effingham County. And you can imagine that we're starting to see some flooding out of this. This frontal boundary will ever so slowly lift northward as we head on in through tomorrow morning, dealing with basically cloudy skies throughout the northeast today, showers and storms from around Pittsburgh on over toward Cincinnati and in through central Indiana. Temperatures in the 70s around Cincinnati, approaching 80 degrees. Lots of sunshine, but it's going to be hot and steamy again across the southeast. No relief in sight here. 90s across the southern portions of Georgia and in through Florida. We're looking at kind of a messy scenario here, and I really think that the big story is going to be the flooding rains with upwards, oops, it jumped right by there, but upwards of 5 inches of, 5 inches of rain in the flood-prone areas.
That's right, and it's happening right now. Good news, the severe thunderstorm warning for Kansas and northern Missouri has been canceled.
Okay.
They say Gateway 2000.
This on today's edition of WeatherScope.
Good morning, everyone. Marshall Cease, Jodi Saeland. There are so many flash flood warnings coming in right now that we're just running to the machine and back trying to keep ourselves updated. And Jodi was the last one over at the machine.
Right. Oh, you know, you have one of those days where just nothing goes right. But the flash flood warnings, you pulled this out and showed me around Trenton, Missouri. In the northern part of Missouri, nearly 6 inches of rain since last evening, and some of these areas have had as much as 9 inches of rain in the past weekend. So flooding is certainly the big story.
It really is. In Macomb, Illinois, that's west of Peoria, Illinois, and Carthage. Street flooding is a problem. 2 feet of standing water, we understand, in Macomb, Illinois right now. Not a nice situation at all.
That is right. And areas around Kansas City yesterday got some heavier rain showers. We take you into Kansas City, where yesterday the rain was coming down about an inch to an inch and a half or so of rain coming up in the Kansas City metro area, and things were certainly a mess if you were doing any traveling. Today we'll have showers and thunderstorms again throughout the region, and we're talking about as much as an inch or so of rain coming in around Kansas City. Heavier rains this morning have certainly been to the north around the Trenton area, as Marshall and I were talking about. Now, we show you the latest satellite picture, and we put it into motion for you, and those thunderstorms blew up early this morning throughout Nebraska, a little bit further north than yesterday. Yesterday, a lot of the action in Kansas. Today, a lot of the action in Nebraska, right on through the Missouri-Iowa border and heading across Illinois, and that is when where some of the problems have been, because you can see as this goes into motion, see how it's just kind of riding over the same area. These thunderstorms starting out over Nebraska, they're riding along the border, and then they're starting to kind of curve on into Illinois, and it's right here around Effingham counties. We've had problems. Actually, this is around the Carthage area that Marshall was talking about, where we've had the flooding rains happening, and everything is right along a frontal boundary, a stationary frontal boundary that has just really been causing some problems. Now, the dew points are very, very high. We've got dew points in the 60s. Basically, the higher the number, the more moisture available in the atmosphere, and we've had plenty of moisture available right along this front. And to the north, we've been seeing the thunderstorms pop because we have the instability and just enough cool air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. The thunderstorms are popping throughout the Ohio Valley, back on through the Dakotas. This is a trouble spot. Here's the front right now, and there's the heavy rains from Kirksville all the way on over towards Springfield and Decatur. And then if you get further north, you get into the soup throughout the Quad Cities and back on through Norfolk and O'Neill, Nebraska. Thunderstorm watch is in effect until noon local time. This is through Missouri, and most of the storms have been actually trotting off to the north. Flash flood watch is in effect in the areas in dark green, and we're anticipating very heavy rains, as you can see, coming in this area in dark green from the Dakotas on back through parts of Virginia. Again, a lot in the radar picture right now throughout parts of Nebraska, but you head further east, and there's our clump of storms coming in across the west central parts of Illinois, and that's where we're having a lot of flooding, and also down around Evansville and New Harmony, where the rivers are running very, very high. Marshall?
It doesn't look like any of that rain
in a short period of time. One dry area that we do notice is southern parts of Minnesota, and they need it. Here is some scenes out of Stillwater, Minnesota, on the St. Croix rain than expected, so that certainly is some good news in Minnesota before the rain moves back in as we head on into Wednesday afternoon. So we're going to have to keep our fingers crossed, because even the Mississippi River is closed in some locations from St. Paul all the way down towards St. Louis, Missouri. This frontal system here, this is the trigger for our showers and scattered thunderstorms through parts of northern Ohio and central parts of Indiana. We've had reports of some large hail around Lafayette, Indiana, and golf ball size hail up near Cleveland. And then we're looking at big storms across southern parts of Georgia into Alabama, and the cooler air coming on down behind this frontal system here. As far as our dew points, basically a measure of the moisture available in the atmosphere. Anytime those dew points start to jump into the 70s, it starts to get a little uncomfortable out there. We've got a slot of some pretty moist air all the way up into parts of Missouri at this hour. Several watches, tornado watches indicated by red on your screen there, and the yellow indicates where we have severe thunderstorm watches. So you'll do me a favor and read the red screen as it comes across at home, and that's going to detail all the information for you. Here